Hello, welcome back to the Spider's Web, and in this video we're going to be painting another one of our heroes. This is Heracles, and not much to this fella. All seems to be quite straightforward, very simple, lots of flesh, bit of fur, bit of material and some wood. That's it. All we're looking at for this guy, so shall we get on with it? Thought you'd never asked. Okay, fair enough. I can take a hint. So, what we're going to do first is give my brush a bit of a rinse because it's a little bit firm. Didn't clean it out as well as I should have done. Right, so we're going to go for quite a dark skin tone for Heracles. And we're going to go with Bugman's Glow. So I'm going to try and keep the paint pots a little more on the screen, a little more when I'm showing them off, as well as listing which ones I'm using. Yeah, I just think it might be a nice idea, and because there's a lot of skin tone to this fella and nothing really intricate, yeah, I'm just going to use this big brush to apply the skin tone because I'm not too fussed about going over any other area at the moment. And this will get all the paint on as quick and as simple as possible. So it's just a case of slap the paint on for the moment. I keep saying that's one of my little phrases I use. Just slap the paint on, because that's what we're doing really in this stage. We're not looking at being neat and tidy and precise. We're just trying to get the paint onto the model and get the base colour on, because this is the bit that needs to be applied before we can actually start taking any notice of details. For the time being, as there's nothing else painted and there's a great amount of flesh, I'm using the big brush and we're slapping the paint on. Now I'll just go over the face, making sure though that even though we are applying the paint fairly quickly with a big brush, we don't want to obscure any detail. So the paint is thinned, hence the reason we're using a wet palette, because it thins the paint out for us. Plus the brush is damp as well, so there's a little bit of water on the brush, there's water on the palette. So the paint is thinned to the consistency we need. If it's still going on pretty thick, you can always just adjust the angle of this camera. Bear with me. There. If you think the paint is going on a little bit too thick anyway, you can always add a touch more water to your brush. But the chances are you should be okay with just using it off the palette with a damp brush. There we go. So that's Heracles almost finished. Yeah, I'm saying that now. It's the base coating almost finished for Heracles. There's not much more else to do. But for the fur, we're going to use a couple of different colours. First off, For the boots we're going to use rhinox hide. I'm going to pop that on the pallet. I don't need a great amount. There we are. So this particular fur could come from, oh, I don't know, a brown bear or some such. I'm not going to do the trim, you know, the top of the boots with this brush, because I need be a bit more careful, because I've already painted the skin tone, so I don't want to run the risk of going over the skin tone, which I will do with this brush. I can tell you that now, if I decided to use this brush to do this fur. Why are you saying that? Let's hang on, just right. You see the size of the brush. Let's do a little experiment. Can we do this without getting it on the skin tone? If you're careful and you move the brush in just the right way, I hope you can see that it can be done. There we are. And to go again. Now there you go, I've just accidentally gone onto the skin tone a little bit, not too much. But it's nothing that can't be adjusted later. And it's not as bad as I thought it would be. There we go. Ta-ta-ta. And next job, I'll do the club next. Now the club is wood. We're going to go with dryad bark. What a surprise. But you weren't seeing that one coming, were you? So dryad bark on the palette. And you know, there's no airs and graces with this one. Let's slap the paint on. There's a little bit of wrapping around the where he's holding it, so we'll not go on that with the dryad bark. I will try our best not to anyway. And we'll just paint the wood, or the areas that we want to be wood. We'll just paint those. And there we go, just like that. Sometimes you can't really see where you've painted, especially if you're using lights like these. You can't see sometimes where you've painted until it actually dries, because it looks shiny. When it dries and it looks dull, you can see where you've missed. That's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. Next, we're going to use a dark grey colour. Eshin grey is the one we're using. We don't want a great deal of this, and I'm not going to use this brush for the simple reason being it's only small areas that I'm doing, so it's not going to be advantageous to use a brush that size. I'm going to use a slightly bigger brush than I would normally use for detail, but we're going to do the or the wrist wrappings here. Here we go. Now, you may see that this is taking a little bit longer to do because I'm not using as big a brush. These brushes don't fan out as much as that previous brush I was using, so it doesn't cover as large an area. These are more for detail. Maybe a bigger brush than I would normally use for detail, but you still get a nice point off it, and because of which it doesn't cover the area as much as the other brush did. There we go, so that's one. Now this one. Now this wrapping here I'm not going to do yet. I'm going to do that after the mini's been washed. I want to do it as though it's a highlight rather than actually painting it. And you'll see what I mean a little bit later when I come around to doing the highlights. I'm not sure, depending on how long this video takes, I may actually not go on to a second video, but we'll soon find out, because I know there's not much to painting this mini, but there may be a little bit more to do for highlighting. Base coating is easy enough. Highlighting may be that little bit, take that little bit longer. We'll find out. And I'm now going to do the fur trim around here. May need to get some more of the Ashen Grey on the palette. Not much left. Need to get a nice point on this brush and getting to do certain details. Touch more, as I say, Ashen Grey on the palette. Sometimes it's needed. You think sometimes that you've got enough, but it turns out you use more than you expect. But you can always put more on the palette if you haven't got enough. So don't worry about that bit. Now, that's the fur trim done. Next, what we're going to do is the little skirty thing he's wearing. Loincloth, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. For that I'm going to use Scrag Brown. We're sticking with the common colour theme all the way through these minis, you may have noticed. Right, I'm not going to use Scrag Brown, just change my mind. Mainly because I've used it too many times and I think I want to change myself. So what am I going to use instead? No, don't want that one, don't want that one. I know what we'll do though. I know what we'll do. Tallarn sand. Go a little paler. I don't want it as bright as the Balor brown because that's like a golden brown colour. A bit too yellowy for what I want. I'm going to go with this one because it's more. It's not quite. It's not too bright, and it's not too pale. Now, as you can see, I'm back to the big brush again. Because I want to give you an idea of how you can paint with the big brushes. Now, these are the Army Painter. Oh, this is one of the ones from the Army Painter set. They're really nice brushes, but with them being synthetic, I find that synthetic brushes usually are very easy to it's very easy for synthetic brushes to lose the points, whereas proper brushes don't seem to do that very well. They always seem to keep the points. So, oh yeah, that's the main part done. I'll just wash this now, and I want to do something still with the Tallarn sand. I'm going to go into the Rhinox hide, into the Tallarn sand, a bit more into the Tallarn sand, a little bit into the Bugman's Glow, a little bit more. No, there's no set thing for this. I'm just adding colours until I get to a shade and a colour that I like. I think I've just found it. So rinse my brush out. I'm going to change to a smaller brush again. Bit of a rinse, bit of a wipe, and this is going to be the colour for his little pouch here. Just like so. That's that bit done. Next, a touch of, what can we use? Not that one. Oh yeah, pallid witch flesh, and that is going to go around the grip on the club. And we might find some other areas for this to go on as well. I don't know what I was going to say then. I was going to say something completely. Things keep popping into my mind. I'm just about to say them, and then because I'm concentrating, it goes very quickly. Yeah, this is going to change colour slightly. Then I'll come down to washing. So it's not going to look exactly like that. Is there anywhere else that I could use this? Yes, there is. There are little straps here that I could use it. Try and be quite what's the word I'm looking for? Careful when you're doing this bit, because you don't want to get this colour on the brown. There we go. If you do catch the brown part, then once again, don't be too worried about it. You can always go over it again, but try and save a little bit of work and time. Be a little careful with what you're doing, and that way you don't run the risk of applying too much paint and blocking it and obscuring any detail. And we'll just keep going with this. My arm wasn't going in the right direction, luckily it didn't go on anywhere. That's that. I'll also run this. No, I won't, not yet. Actually, I will run this down here and over these two. Bands that are running around his arm. Just like so. I was going to do this a different way, but I think I might as well just get it done now. There we are. And finally there's a couple of pieces of what I'm choosing to be metal, and we'll do that the same way as we usually do with wall plot bronze. And because there's not much of it, I'm not, again, like the Pallid Witch Flesh, I'm not going to be putting any on the palette. Acid Red Bark, where's the wall plot bronze there? Give it a bit of a shake. Wall plot bronze, that's the one we're using now. And I need some more of this. So we'll do that, and then making sure that you don't go on anywhere else but where you want it to go, and I'm not spending a blooming fortune on paint. Just going to have to pick out the ones that I really need and ignore the rest until a later date, I think. Just make sure that all the areas that you want to be metal is covered. need to go over anywhere else now and just touch up, you can do. Let's have a quick look. Okay, there's a couple of areas on the skin that just need a little bit of attention. And so it's better doing it now, because if you don't and you forget to do it, then what happens is it looks wrong. You forget about it altogether, and then when you finish painting it, you'll realise at a later date that you've missed it, and then you'll have to start faffing about trying to get it organised or trying to get it sorted out, and it's making life much more difficult for you. Just get it done as you're painting. It's much easier that way. Right, I'm not going to do the hair or the beard as yet. I'm going to wait until after I've washed. But that, as far as I can see, I'm going to just touch up a little bit on the Tallarn sand around here. I've noticed there's a little bit that's not actually covered. In fact, the coverage all over the Tallarn sand is a bit patchy, so I'm just going to give the skirty thing that he's wearing a bit of a touch up. I may need to go over the grey again, but we'll see what happens after the wash. I don't want it to be too, I don't want this grey to be too neat. Okay, so that is the majority of the base coating done. That's as much as I'm going to do with the base coating, I think. Let me just give it a quick once over, see if I've missed anywhere. Well, there's a couple of places I can see for the Eshin grey, so obviously I don't want to be doing too much on this, but if I can see there's bits that need doing, better doing it. I can actually see some of a bit too much of the primer in some areas. It's not covered at all. Plus I've caught it with the flesh tone as well. It's not gone over the flesh tone as well as I'd hoped it would be. So we'll just make sure that it's all done. There we are. That will do the job fairly well. Need a little more to here where I've not caught it as much as I thought I had. There we are. So that is the base coating done. Now the next step is washing, and for that we're going to use what we're going to use for this. You know what? I'm going to use this Keelia green shade. No I'm not, no I'm not, no I'm not, no I'm not, no I'm not. I'm going to use Heracles Flesh Shade. Mainly because I don't want the wrappings and things like that turning green. I want them to be brown, and if I do it in green and do it all over in green, they will look green. So let's get it on. Just apply the wash all over the mini. Don't allow it to pool too much. It needs to go into the crevices, yes, but it doesn't need to be doesn't need to pool up too much, because if it does that, you run the risk of losing detail. So be mindful of that when you're washing. I've made that mistake once or twice before, and it does spoil a nice mini. There's a fine line between too much and not enough. The Heracles Flesh Shade gives more of a reddy colour to the wash. The Heracles shade is a little more bluey in tone, so it's more grey. Not by much, or it just might be the way I'm looking at it, but this gives a much more reddish hue to the mini, and gives quite a nice effect too, especially whites or pale greys when you're doing them as like the wrappings. It gives a nice shade to them. But that's it for this video. I'm hoping I've got everywhere. Doesn't matter about the hair really. But yep, I think I've got everywhere now. Just making sure I don't want to miss anywhere at all. And now that's done, all we have to do is wait for it to dry, and then we can carry on and start highlighting. I may give this skirty thing another wash with this. It depends on how it dries, but I'll do that off camera and I'll let you know that I've done it. But it'll just be the same process as this, just a quick wash. Nothing else will go on without you seeing it. But as far as this part of the video is concerned, it's come to an end. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Join me next time when we're finishing Heracles. But until then, as always, take care, God bless, and bye for now.